I did get a few dodgy looking email addresses registered for this event, so I want to make sure everybody who's here knows why they're here. So we're here to talk about digital strategy for non-profit organizations, and I'm determined to make it fun. Okay, you got my promise. We're here for 60 to 90 minutes. Cool. Okay, thank you. Welcome, everybody. So, yeah, as I was saying, so we're here to talk about digital strategy. 60 to 90 minutes. We're going to have a bit of interactive elements to this as well. And I'm going to take you through 5 steps for crafting your digital strategy. Now, we're not going to be able to do everything because obviously that relies on bringing other people into the process as well. We only know so much ourselves, and I'm a big advocate of not doing this sort of stuff in a silo. So what I give you here is the framework. We're going to go through a few worked examples, and that'll give you something to take away. Just before we dig in properly, I'd love to just get a bit of an insight from everyone here today on what your thoughts are on digital strategy. When I say digital strategy, what are the thoughts, feelings? What are your experiences of that? Would you mind dropping that in the chat so I can kind of see where everyone's at the moment? It doesn't need to be some big profound statement. Just a few words is fine. What's your experience of digital strategy? How do you feel about it? And totally new to it. Jess, limited. Yeah. I did do a questionnaire at the start of this just to get people's perspectives. Yeah. Yeah. Important, but not sure where to start. Changing limited experience. Yeah. So we're just going through what you think of digital strategy. So yeah, if you could drop that into the chat. Yeah, because it's such I find it's kind of an emotionally charged term, really. It can be quite confusing, it can be quite overwhelming. Um, and yeah, don't know where to start. Yeah, I've got it. Cool. Okay, thank you. So yeah, bringing it all together. So there's a lot of stuff here around it, being new to it, not knowing where to start, having limited experience. Great. Ensuring utilizing technology available. Websites, social media, and digital content. For me, it's coordinating everything. Yeah, thank you, Debbie. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So what I would do is I'm going to share my screen as is customary on these sorts of things. I was giving the nod when you can see that. Cool. Thank you. Cool. Okay. So yeah. So as I said, this is going to be 30 to 6, sorry, 60 to 90 minutes. If anyone has any questions along the way, like there's not tons of people in here. So if you want to sort of come off mic, come onto the mic and speak, you don't have to stay limited in the chat. But what I'm going to do is just talk you through, for a start, the reasons why, in my experience and in my professional opinion, digital strategy is important. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about myself in a moment, but I want to frame this presentation with these distinctions of when you do digital projects without strategy and when you do them with strategy. And I would say that in the first instance, if you embark upon any digital project without a strategic underpinning, you can't see the wood for the trees. It's very difficult to see how it all links together. You end up kind of creating these projects, and in that space, it can be pretty hit and miss. With strategy, you get a bird's eye view of the digital ecosystem. You can kind of see what's going on, and that's so much better for making decisions, right? Without digital strategy, teams tend to work in silos. Now, I've seen this so many times, and I've been party to it myself, unfortunately. People have great ideas, and then they sort of go off and implement stuff, and it doesn't work, or it doesn't get accepted, it doesn't get adopted by the rest of the team because people are working in silos. when we work with digital strategy, we find that team and stakeholders, sorry, the team and internal stakeholders tend to collaborate. They tend to share ideas because what they're doing is they're working towards an overarching mission. Without strategy, the wrong solutions can get implemented. Again, I've seen this, because there hasn't been enough appropriate thinking up front. Um, the wrong solutions are suggested and they're not tested properly and they get implemented. With digital strategy, more informed decisions are made. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that all those decisions are correct or they don't change. It just means that they're more informed. Without digital strategy, digital projects get done just because. I'm sure you must have seen this. Vanity projects, people just kind of like coming up with ideas for things to do, and that's great. But if it's not underpinned by some strategic thinking, yeah, it's going to have minimal impact. And so when you do it with strategy, those projects have a clearer purpose because they link to, a wider reason for being. And finally, without strategy, digital remains a mystery, which yeah, I've seen this quite a lot as well. If we're not linking it to a bigger idea, we'll try things and then sometimes those projects will fall out of favor. They won't have any impact, but we don't know why. And so things just kind of remain, yeah, a mystery. Whereas with strategy, you've got a much greater chance of your knowledge and confidence in this area expanding because it's just a lot more thought through. And so, to give you kind of a top level definition of strategy, this is what we're working with here. I would describe it as a coordinated system of actions and events designed to move an organization towards its overarching vision. I know that sounds pretty clever, but yeah, for me, this captures it. It's a coordinated system. So it's not sporadic, it's coordinated. These actions and events take place as part of something bigger. And the purpose of it is to move towards that overarching vision. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts on any of that so far? Is that making sense to everyone? I'd love to see some more faces if you're okay to put cameras on. Oh, that's fine. Cool. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to oh, sorry, I'll just do a quick introduction to myself. Yeah, so yeah, my name's Matt Saunders. I don't think I've met many people in this room, so it's good to see so many people here. I've been a digital designer and marketer for over 20 years. Um, Run a couple of agencies, worked in various different agencies. And over that time, I kind of started working with charities about in 2017, 2018. And yeah, I really was struck by how much good I felt I could do in this sector. So I've worked with a number of charities since 2018. Even wrote the book Digital Charity, which is designed to give people an overview of digital projects and how to implement them within your organization. I'm also a trauma-informed business coach. So I've mentored lots of different people in the creative space. So other designers, other copywriters, other creators, really, just to help them to run better businesses, improve their processes, yeah, improve the way that they do business. And as you can see from now, I'm a dad of two little girls as well. Our second one came along in January of this year. So it's been a wild year. I've got a 3-year-old and a 9-month old. So that's me. What I would like to do is just pose a question to you. I'm going to go into breakout rooms for this, but if resources were unlimited, what would you do? And by resources, I mean time, money, people, ideas, however you want to take the word resources. If you lift the lid on what was possible for you and for your organization, what would you do from a digital perspective, from a marketing perspective? So we're going to go into breakout rooms for a few minutes, 10 minutes, and just talk that through. So yeah, there's going to be three of you in a room. So introduce yourselves and talk through this question. If resources were unlimited, what would you do? And then we'll come back to the main room for some sharing. That sound good to everyone? Any questions about that? Cool. Okay. So Hey, welcome back. How was that?
Yeah, good
Yeah,
bit
we've
for
got
it.
some ideas, haven't we?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah,
Gonna build a cloning machine.
yeah, basically we need more everything. More people, more resource, more infrastructure, more software, more money,
Yeah,
more time. Bit of everything.
yeah, yeah. Not heard a cloning machine one before. I think that's a good idea. If you find funding for that, that'd be great. Yeah, so anybody got anything they would like to share? Did anything yeah, anything more interesting than a cloning machine come out of those conversations?
I think ours was mostly the headline was time. We would like to buy capacity either for a full-time IT specialist or for somebody to come in and tell us what we don't know, because if we don't know it, we can't do it.
Hmm.
Um, to help us join everything up, um, automate things, help us understand what the potential of all of these new technologies is and how we could use them. So yeah, it's all everything pretty much that we talked about was to do with buying more capacity and more time to actually do these things that we want to do in terms of development. I don't know if either of my colleagues I was speaking to have anything I've missed, but I think that was the headline.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm also aware there are a number of people here from the same organizations. So I apologize if you get put with, well, if you get put with your team, I'm sure that's fine. But if someone gets put in a breakout room with one of the teams, then maybe that's helpful to you. But yeah, what I guess what I'm hearing there is if you had more time, i.e. more the resource of time, you would bring someone in to help with this stuff and kind of help you to see what the potential of it is. But just using, I guess, using what you currently know or the imagination from the various different, researches you've done so far, what do you think it could open up for you if you had unlimited time and unlimited resource? Big question.
Getting to a bigger audience, reaching a bigger audience so that, there are so many different offers that we put out in different ways in which we want people to engage. And it's being able to go to a bigger audience so you can reach more people more of the time.
Yeah, yeah. I think so much of this comes down to reach, doesn't it? Are there any other sort of side benefits, do you think, to unlimited resource? Like what would it give you? What would it enable for you internally, perhaps?
Maybe not internally, but I think the quality of the output would be improved.
Mm,
If you've got the resource to do the evaluation and look back at what worked and what didn't and learn more from what you've done, um, then the stuff that you're actually doing should be more fruitful.
mm. Yeah, yeah, I like that. It's almost like with the extra capacity, it frees up, yeah, creativity, I guess, and the time to do things properly. I was going to say, but do things better, right?
Something we found, and we're talking about in our group as well, is being able to do things more cohesively.
Mm,
So often with the limited resources we have to choose a free option from one ecosystem and pair it with the free Google Workspace and the free bits from Microsoft and a different option there. And the struggle that we had was everything was kind of patched together and didn't quite fit as a cohesive thing for our organization.
mm,
So that having more resources to be able to sort of kind of link it all together, have a bit more of a solid thing and automate it. That was the other thing we're saying. So because when it's so separate, it's a very manual process. Okay, let me add this new user here, there, and everywhere. If it's all one or if it's all kind of shared, you have more automated experience for everyone.
yeah, yeah, I totally see that. And I think that challenge sort of permeates all businesses, whether in your third sector or not. It's linking things together and trying to sort of improve efficiencies is really worth doing. But yeah, it requires the investments, right? Otherwise, it's the free manual approach of doing this stuff. But yeah, if you're small, If you haven't got a ton of activity, that kind of stuff is fine. But as you scale and grow, yeah, that can get really unmanageable. We'll take one more if anybody would like to share anything that came out of that question. If with unlimited resource, what would you do if anything was possible?
I guess measuring would be really useful. So being able to really look at the analytics and know what was working so you could do more of the same.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And yeah, okay. So what would that enable for you then?
Well, it would mean that the limited resources that we had would be applied to better effect because you would be able to see what had most effect and be able to do more of that.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Okay, so let me just share my screen again. We'll move on to the next stage of this, which is, so I want to just talk about this idea of mindset, or culture. So you probably heard this before in personal development circles. You hear this phrase, success is 80% mindset, 20% strategy. And I can tell you from my own experience of being in business and from coaching other people as well, a lot of this comes down to the way we think, the things we believe, our opinions about stuff. And what I've seen is you can have the best strategy in the world, the best digital strategy in the world, and the best intent in the world, but without the right organizational culture and the way that you see this sort of technology, you're really limiting yourselves. Does that sort of, just before I move on, does that resonate with anyone? Does anyone just give any nods or yeah? Do you know what I mean by mindset? Yeah. I just want to check because it's one of those obscure phrases that has only come about in the past few years, but it's such a fundamental part of this work. Because as I said, the strategy is only 20%, the rest of it is almost how you feel about it. And so what I've seen is um, various different traits that tend towards a what I would call a digital first culture, a digital positive culture. In my experience, I'm going to go through some of these now. There's going to be six of them. Digital first cultures, the organizations tend to be stakeholder focused. So they are less bothered about the specific details and more interested in just serving the best interests of stakeholders. When you do that, you kind of become less bothered by the how and the technology itself, and more like keeping in alignment with, yeah, improving things and getting results and helping stakeholders, beneficiaries, and those kinds of things. They're also return on investment focused. So I think it's very common, especially during times of famine when we don't have a lot of cash knocking about, to be, yeah, looking at things from a cost perspective. And the minor sort of mindset shift that's required really is to see the return rather than the investment as much as possible. So it's really digging into what will this do for us? What would this idea do for us? What would this technology do for us? Rather than seeing it as a cost and then not investing and ultimately, yeah, not really moving forward or struggling to move forward. Another trait is being data driven. So regularly observing the results of any work that you do, and just feeding that back into the decision-making process so that, yeah, you're remaining stakeholder focused. You're making cost-effective decisions rather than a lot of it being guesswork. Because I see that quite a lot as well. People aren't sure, so they'll take a best guess, which is fine. But we want to get data in as much as possible and as quickly as possible to start making things a little bit more informed. They're also open and curious. This is a very positive cultural trait that I've seen. And what I would call it is like a scientist's mindset. So it's less about this thing has to work or we can't try that because it didn't work in the past. And it's more about being open to new technologies, new solutions, new software, new platforms, new channels, and just seeing how they support your aims. I think openness and curiosity is a really valuable mindset to have particularly if you're in a comms role, if you're in a senior role. Yeah, the world's moving, and I think being open and curious about where it's moving towards is a great thing to do. Also, collaborative and agile. So a lot of times, and I alluded to this earlier, people work in silos, especially big organizations. I see this a lot. Someone's gone away and scoped out a database project and then brought it back, but no one asked for it, and it feels like, whoa, how are we going to integrate this? And yeah, so the idea here is to be collaborative and bring people along on the journey. Integrate other people's ideas and feedback and share the things that you're working on. Fostering that kind of community aspect within any organization is again another digital first trait. And finally, supported by leadership. Best team in the world's going to struggle if trustees are holding the purse strings and saying, no, we can't do that. Yeah, I know it's a bit of an emotionally charged one, but I think it's got to come from the top, the bottom up approach and the top down approach, really, to invest in training, in tools, in expertise to maximize the potential that you have with this digital technology. So what we can do now, just give you a couple of minutes. There's this idea of a digital mindset maturity score. I just want you to have a look at each of those and give yourself a score. It doesn't have to be perfect, but where you feel you or your organization stands on each of these areas out of 10. It should be a score out of 60, a total score. If you could do that and drop it in the chat, your score out of 60, if that's okay. I've just put some example numbers on the screen there, but yeah, go through each one and give yourself a score out of 10 for each and add it up to 60. Thirty-seven, 34, 32, 28, 36. Cool. So they're all around a similar. Alison's leading with 42. She's been matched by Angela at 42. 36-ish. I like that. Room for wriggle. 41. Wow, quite a lot of 42s here. Which was the strongest one? Which of the which was your strongest area did you score in? Supported by leadership, great. Open curious, good, good. Stakeholder focused. Amazing. Wow. Collaboration and open and curiosity is really good. So which was the lowest score? ROI, data driven. Yeah. A lot of the numbers and a lot of the proving things, I guess, as well. Proving things with data. Okay. Great. Thank you. Cool. Okay. So a little question. Not quite sure why I've got blue lines on the screen. Strange. Little question here is how could you improve? We don't need to go into this now because I'm also aware of time. Um, but just a little takeaway really of how could you improve those scores? So what I would encourage you to do is with yourself, your team, after this, just look at each of those areas and just if you're at a 6, how can you go to 7? If you're at a 3, how can you go to 4? And just play with some ideas there because this is the approach that's really going to help get the cogs turning and generate the ideas that you're looking for. Stop sharing that. Strange. Cool. Okay, so thank you for that. So forge strands of digital strategy. So we're getting towards I'm getting towards the digital strategy. I just want to set the scene with this idea that there are 4 different areas, if you like. And there's nothing new here, but what I've seen is that digital strategy can be seen as this massive thing, and it is kind of like all-encompassing. But most of the time, people think about digital strategy, they think digital comms strategy. And whilst that's obviously a big part of it, digital infuses every part of your organization, right? It's embedded into our lives. So we've got to think about it more holistically. So the 4 areas are first and foremost is your marketing communications, social media, websites, paid ads, all that sort of stuff. The second area is data management. So email personalization, CRM, how you capture that stuff and what you do with it. The compliance that you have towards that as well is obviously such a big deal these days. Internal ops. So financial software, security software, internal communications, Slack, all these kinds of things, Discord, whatever it is that you use. And service delivery. So this is increasingly an area that I'm seeing charities use increasingly for service delivery. I'm talking basic things like online forms rather than having emails, forms sent over email or paper-based things, chatbots for engaging with supporters, for engaging with service users, mobile apps, another way to communicate with people. It depends where you're at in terms of your organizational growth and what it is you're actually setting out to achieve. But working digital technology into service delivery can be a really important thing as well. So I just wanted to kind of give this framework, really. There's nothing here that's, we don't need to get too bogged down by these 4 areas, but it can give you a bit of a framework through which to see your digital strategy. Any questions or comments on any of that? That all makes sense to everybody? Cool. Okay, so how to design your digital strategy. So I'm going to give you 5 steps, and this is the steps that it's a framework. It's not necessarily a linear process, and it is something that you want to make your own. Yeah, you can lean on each area more than another, and we'll get to all that. But first of all, what we want to do is we want to start with why, which is why are we putting together a digital strategy? It sounds like an obvious question. It doesn't need to be some huge grandiose answer, but it's good to know from a leadership perspective the reason behind putting together a digital strategy. The second step is kind of like an audit assessment stage where you gather all the stakeholder feedback. So everybody within your organization and outside, you get a snapshot of what people are struggling with, what people want. Capturing it all. The third step that we move into is simply brainstorming solutions to all of those ideas and problems that came out of the second step. The fourth step is evaluating those solutions, and I'm going to provide a little framework for that as well, just to make sure that any ideas that you come up with are actually going to help you rather than just waste a load of time and cost a load of money, because I've seen that happen as well, right? And finally, from those evaluated solutions, you just create projects and you stick them into a roadmap. So this is quite a comprehensive piece of work, but it is actually pretty simple when you get down to the bare bones of it. So let's start with the first one here, which is start with why. Really, what are any digital strategy really just wants to support the organization's overarching aims. Now, I know that you have a theory of change in place, and I want to give you an example of that just to give us something to work with. So this is quite a boring slide. I'm just going to read it out. But let's imagine that your charity helps young people from disadvantaged communities learn skills to improve their career prospects. You achieve this through giving talks in schools, running skill building workshops, and offering career advice. The tangible outcomes is higher test scores, enhanced career awareness, and more confidence. And finally, the impact that you make on society is increased employment rates and a reduction in poverty in the communities you serve. Does anyone here not have or are unaware of their organization's theory of change, overarching ultimate goal, whatever you want to call it? Yeah, you all know why you do what you do. That's great. So we could say that a digital strategy for this organization might simply be to raise brand awareness, improve service delivery, and enhance measurability of impact. That's it. And then any decisions we make or any conversations we have after this point, they all link back to this purpose statement here, which itself is supposed to support the theory of change. I'm just going to give you a moment to just have a think about and maybe write down what a purpose statement, if you like, or a why statement for your digital strategy could be. And if you feel compelled, you can drop that in the chat, but you don't have to. Has everyone had a go at that? Was it easy? No? Anyone struggling with that? Hannah's struggling with it. I think Alison said she was struggling as well. Yeah, just before we move on, just to kind of like clear this up, is anyone, yeah, what is it that you're struggling with? You could drop it in the chat or you could come off mute if you want to just kind of talk it out.
I think for me, I'm like trying to figure out how our digital strategy needs to like sorry, I've got the sun in my eyes, it's blinding. Trying to figure out how it would meet the demands of like our audience, which are like young people, children, and young adults, and also like funders and trusts and education organizations that we work with. So it's like meeting the expectations of like various different audiences and having like a one size approach that fits all. So I couldn't think of like two or three like key statements or phrases that would like fit nicely into one sentence, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it sounds like in your mind the scope is pretty huge, so you're trying to whittle that down, but it's not really fitting.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, and there
Yeah.
probably is a way, but I just obviously need to like maybe like brainstorm and kind of yeah, have spend some longer time to like boil it down.
Yeah. So I mean, one thing that could be helpful is to just spend a bit of time, like you said, brainstorming and look for two or three priorities, really. Just things that you want to and this process to support. Raising brand awareness, increasing measurability, for example, in there. Yeah, it is going to be very specific to your organizational needs. It's going to be specific to and or influenced by at least your resource as well and your time. But I guess the invitation is to not try and take it all on and just get something down that can move you from the first step. Because once you get moving, things will become clearer. Plus, you might actually go back to this and iterate it as well down the line. You get to step three and you go, oh, actually, the purpose of this could be improved a little bit somewhat. Cool. Okay. Hopefully that was helpful. We'll move on. So, yeah, so the next step is listing out all known problems, wants, and needs. Now, we can't really do this effectively on this call because, like I said, you need to involve your team with this. But what you want to do is just kind of speak to everyone who has a vested interest in the organization, donors, volunteers, trustees, all the staff, and just try and tease out what their problems are within the organization. And this is why this is more holistic than just marketing communications, right? Because someone might be complaining about, the software on the computer is not up to date, it's kind of boring, but you might want to integrate something in there as part of your digital strategy to tackle that. I'll give you a few examples. So, you might have from these conversations, you might have things like our website is too slow, editing videos takes too long. We do social media posts, but editing them takes forever. We struggle to create content consistently. I need better tools for online training. We want to grow our mailing list. Email signatures are out of date. We want more online donations. The team resists new technology. So you can kind of see what the goal here is to just speak to as many people as you can and flush out everything that people are dealing with from a digital technology perspective, as much as you can. And then you've got a huge list of everything that you know where you stand really. And the next step is to begin devising solutions to that. But we'll do one thing at a time. So what we're going to do is go off into rooms of two, maybe rooms of two or three again, and talk this through. Just ask each other, questions like, what are your challenges? What would make your job easier? Like, how could you improve your service delivery? How could, what would make your job more enjoyable? Just these kinds of things. We'll go into rooms and spend another 10 minutes and just go through that. Does that sound good to everyone? Okay. Yeah, it asks you if you want to close the room or if you want to wait a few more seconds. So you click close the room and then it just adds on another minute. How was that? Was that a helpful exercise? Anything interesting come out of it? Welcome back. Yeah. Was that a helpful exercise? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody got anything to share?
We were
Or is it
talking
a
about
secret?
uptake
Yeah.
because so we run a mentoring service and we've got a bunch of volunteers and they have to fill in a diary every week to comply with our safeguarding. And we were like, oh, this is great. They have to, at the moment, they're writing it on a piece of paper and sending us a photograph of it, and then somebody's having to type that out. Wouldn't it be great if we had an online form that did that for us? And we spent all the time building that, and then we rolled it out. And bearing in mind we've got 150 odd volunteers, only 3 people are using it.
Mm.
So the kind of investment in the system hasn't translated into the feedback from the actual
Mm.
service users.
So the next challenge is encouraging uptake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. What we'll do is I'm just going to move on because I'm just aware of time is running away, as it tends to do. Um, because we're only at step 2. So we've been through this process where you flush everything out. It's not a great phrase, but you know what I'm saying. Is you get a view of where everyone's at. I'm going to take one of the examples here to move into brainstorming. Now, again, this is fairly straightforward stuff, to be honest with you, but let's say you take one of these, we want to grow our mailing list. Maybe a few people say this, just for example. So you prioritize it. And then you get into just brainstorming solutions. And again, this is best with your team. And what's really crucial at this point is to not worry too much about practical implementation. A lot of the times we kind of like we snuff out good ideas by asking how we could do them or saying they're not possible or we can't afford them. This is a time to just brainstorm, let things flow. So you might say, oh, we could ask social media followers to join. We could add a mailing list pop up to our website. We could add a sign up link to all of our blog posts. We could ask existing subscribers to refer a friend. We could run paid ads to a sign up page. We could send a free fundraising pack in the post to new subscribers. We could share recent editions of our newsletter to tempt in new subscribers. These are kind of like all potential ways that you could fulfill this need or this goal that's kind of come out of your research phase, if you like, the second step. Now, what I would like to do is we can have a quick look at taking someone's challenge and brainstorm it now. And I'm going to use a tool. Has anyone heard of Miro? Yeah, do you use it? Cool. Okay, so it won't be unfamiliar. But what I would love to do is just take someone's. We'll go into this kind of mind mapping thing for just for a moment. Has anyone got any challenge that they would like to share, a problem or an unmet goal that we could kind of brainstorm as a group? Just if you have, just call it out or drop it in the chat, and we can do a little bit of that.
One of our challenges is we create quite a lot of content, but we get very little response to our content. So we need better ways of engaging because we've got quite a large number of followers, but we don't get many actually engaging with our posts, which is obviously what you need.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing. Well, not great, but thank you for sharing. What's when you say you create a large number of amount of content, just give me some idea of what that looks like.
Well, when I say large, it's not 3 times a day. We aim to post about 4 times a week.
Okay. And how many followers roughly do you have across networks?
Well, I'm thinking so they alter with whichever one, but for example, Instagram we've got about 4,000 followers, something like that.
Okay, cool. So we'll say I guess the need here is like more engagement from from con or with content. More you want more engagement with from slash with the content that you're putting out.
Yeah.
Cool. It's a common challenge. I think a lot of people face this. I would love to just get some brainstorming from the room now. Has anyone, faced this yourselves and tried anything that's helped you with it? Any ideas come to mind that might help Marion and her team, get more engagement with the content? Feel free to shout out or drop it in the chat, and we'll just kind of put in um, do some brainstorming now. Claudia?
Hello, hi, and thank you for having me. I'm one of those people with the dodgy emails. To be honest, I'm thinking of setting up a social enterprise after the baby. I have a 1 year and a half. She'll go to nursery after the winter. So I saw an event, your event, Eventbrite. I saw your event, and I hope you don't mind me signing up because I already learned a lot from you. I just wanted to say to the lady that I read that for Instagram, it might be more useful the stories to reach the followers instead of just the posts. Like do the post as well, but the stories as well, they help a lot. So I hope it's gonna help her.
Cool. So here's an idea straight away. So use. Can anyone else think of anything here?
How are you measuring your engagement? Are you benchmarking it or?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
How are you measuring your engagement on your social channels?
Well, on that specific one, just looking at the analytics and looking at, who's actually, so it's all very well the people that have seen the post, but you need to know, obviously we can see whether people have shared it, but really you just want more comments so that other people engage, because, obviously we can all see those sites which get a lot of engagement, and then the more people that comment, it encourages other people to comment, and then obviously then the analytics are much better.
I think from our perspective, we always get more engagement when we have posts with photos on, sort of our staff doing things. I mean, it's always harder for us because I work for a domestic abuse charity, so I'm not sharing photos of clients or refugees, but we do share where we can. Sort of, I've got quite a lot of our children's workers take photo of the craft activities that they're doing, and that gets quite good engagement, or real life stories with pictures of our staff in and things like that. So it's showing sort of the real life face of your organisation and the people that you're supporting, or your team, if you can't share your clients, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Anne suggested in the chat to use questions to prompt comments. Yeah, I've seen all these kind of things. And Marion, I'm sure that you've probably sort of tried various different things, but this is really just to kind of demonstrate this process. Before we just move on, so I don't want to go crazy into this, but does anyone have any other ideas? Anything that you've seen work for other organizations, or something you've tried yourself, or something you've, curious to try from a social media perspective to get more engagement? Okay. So we'll move on. I'm just going to stop sharing there. Yeah. So that phase is all about brainstorming solutions. And like I said, this is best done with your team, with the leadership team, or anyone that you want to bring into that process, really, because you can get some great ideas from anyone who works in any role. Even though this is strategic thinking, You don't have to be, it's not a pay grade thing. You don't have to be senior in an organization to have good ideas, right? So yeah, bring people into this process. The stage 4 is where, so if the last stage was all about ideation and creativity and intuition, this is a bit more about the kind of left brain logical planning part of the process where you evaluate some of those solutions. And there's a really good matrix called the impact effort matrix. Is anyone familiar with this one? Yeah, a few are. Okay, that's cool. So essentially, it enables you to run all of your ideas through a process to make some decisions, really, whether you're going to take them forward or not. And there are 4 quadrants to it. So the first one is quick wins. These are the things that you feel would be high impact but low effort. The other one is major projects. These are the things that are high impact but also probably quite high effort, high cost, high resource, high energy. The bottom left quadrant is minor tasks. So these are, exactly what it sounds like. Low impact, low effort. And then we've got the time wasters down the bottom, which are low impact but high effort. And you do need to have a certain level of knowledge, I think, or be able to research things adequately to run all of your ideas through this process. But honestly, it is so worth it because it's going to help save so much time and just become much more effective in what you're doing. So I've taken a few things from that last spider diagram that I showed you. And again, from my perspective, and this is just my perspective, it could be different for yours. It depends on your resource, your time, your knowledge, etc. But sharing recent editions of the newsletter and adding a newsletter pop-up to the website, for me, that's a quick win. It's high impact and probably quite low effort. What I would call a major project here, if you want to really encourage and sort of like get advocacy from your subscribers, sending like a printed fundraising pack in the post to new subscribers, that's probably quite high effort, getting it designed, printed, posted, and all that sort of stuff. You can decide whether that's something that would be valuable to you. Minor tasks, ask social media followers to join, add a sign up link to blog posts, add existing subscribers, ask existing subscribers to refer a friend. These are all probably quite low impact, but definitely quite low effort. So again, you might decide, we can do these, or maybe we'll just put these on the back burner for now. And what I've said here is running paid ads to a sign-up page is probably quite low impact and probably quite costly. Not necessarily the case, but for a lot of organizations in the early stages of this work, paid ads and things like that can be a bit costly. So I would kind of remove that from the list. Does that make sense to everyone? Any questions on any of that? Is it helpful?
Matt, I just wondered, you might go on to this in the next step, but which one, other than the time wasters, would you start with if you were going to start implementing some of these? Which category do you think is like the most effective to begin with?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I would personally start with, I would start with the ideas. And I think I would probably be looking for quick wins or the low-hanging fruit. But I'm coming from a development perspective, the design development perspective. I kind of know what would be easiest from a digital perspective to implement. If you were coming from a fundraising perspective, you might be looking at the major projects because that's a priority for you. So it's really about, this is why it's so important to get your team in, because then you can hear the voices in the room and I'll say fight amongst yourself, but come to some kind of agreement on, which ones to take forward and which to deprioritize and which ones ultimately to let go of.
Something we did was, and it kind of goes with step 2 as well, with the identifying the challenges, was trying to get the Cyber Essentials certification, and that just really helped us see, oh, okay, we don't have this, we don't have this, we don't have this. These are all our issues. if we want to tick those off, okay, this is going to be a really big project we need to work on, but like these ones are really quick wins. We can just turn on two-factor authentication with organizations kind of thing. And then from there, we can, okay, let's delegate the quick wins on this little team, and I'll work on creating a project plan for this side. And then that was quite a helpful way just for us to just take that first step towards something good. I think the quick wins is probably, yeah, it was the easiest thing to just like tick off and get some good vibes in the room.
Yeah.
And then while we work on the bigger projects in the background.
Yeah.
So this we found this kind of thing. We didn't really have as easy of a box like this, but it did, that kind of idea definitely helped.
Good. Yeah. And I think a lot of this does take experience as well. So the more you do it, the more you can, if you go back to this every 6 months and just kind of reevaluate where you are, it can be really helpful. The next step that I'm going to come on to is just kind of moving these projects into tasks. Sorry, these tasks into projects. So this is really where it starts to become something to actually work on. Because at the moment, so far, all we've done is we've kind of looked at all the problems and all the challenges and all the opportunities, all the potential solutions, and now we just have like this stuff everywhere. We kind of run it through the process to evaluate what's important, what's a priority, what we can let go of, etc. Now's the time to bring it down into, I've literally put it in like a project folder. And this is again where intuition and experience comes in. You look for themes in some of the ideas that you have, and then you can create projects off the back of it. In this instance, I've just called it a newsletter accelerator. This could be like a mini project that, your comms manager takes ownership of. If there's a load of stuff that's pointing towards, obviously, you need a new website, then call it a website redevelopment project. Whatever naming convention makes sensible to you. I quite like coming up with ideas for project names. It makes it creative, it makes it a bit more playful. So you take all of these things and just look for themes, put them into into projects. Then the next step is essentially to gain the oversight that you're looking for by putting them onto something called a Kanban board. Is anyone not familiar with that term, Kanban? Yeah, so I mean, it's really like, it sounds clever. It's actually Japanese for visual card, and basically what it is, it's any projects you're working on. You have a to-do list, you have a doing list, and you have a done list, and then you can kind of get a bird's eye view of, okay, so this is what we're working on at the moment, and these are the ones that are next in line, and you can prioritize stuff on that basis. Your projects may have a specific owner who's responsible for delivering it. You might put a start date and an end date on it. But essentially, this is your roadmap of where you're going as an organization. And if you go through this process every few months, you'd look at this list, you would look at this dashboard most days to get a view of everything. But if you go through this whole process every 6 months or so, your to-do list you'll keep adding stuff to that, but things will keep moving through these lists as well. You'll move this newsletter from to do to doing as you work through it. You will complete it, and then that'll be marked as done. Maybe in the future it goes back to do because it's, you need to look at it again. But the point here is that you get an oversight, which is what we're looking for, really. There's an idea as well when you click into these. So if I clicked into this newsletter accelerator, we see the same thing. So this is where you get a more granular view of what's going on. Okay, so these are the things that we're going to do. These are the things that someone is currently working on, and these are the things that are done. And so really that's pretty much the process. There's nothing, I haven't invented anything here. This is fairly well established stuff. But I hope that it was helpful to you. Do you have any questions on this final part of turning things into projects? Cool. Okay, what I'm going to do is I've turned this webinar into an ebook, which basically contains all of the stuff that I've talked about today and a little bit more as well. I'm going to send it to you afterwards, so you've got that. Hopefully, it's going to make sense for you and your team when you sit down and go through some of this stuff. But yeah, look out for that. It'll either be probably tomorrow over email. And yeah, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much.
We are.
Thank you to you.
You.
So we've got 5 or 6 minutes left. If anyone wants to stick around and have a little chat. Otherwise, if you've got to head off, that's absolutely fine. Yeah. Any questions? Anything to bring to this before we go?
Could you recommend a free Kanban management tool?
Yeah, a really good one is Trello.
Oh yeah, I've used Trello.
Yeah. I think a lot of project management tools now like Asana, Monday.com, I think a lot of them have Kanban features within them. So, they're very comprehensive, but you can bring it down to just those lists. But Trello is a really good place to start.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
No problem.
I've got to race, so thank you very much.
No problem at all. Really nice to meet you. Anyone else? We all good? Cool. Okay. Anne, was you going to say something?
No, just to say thank you before I went.
No problem. Really nice to meet you, and thank you for thank you for participating. Really good to see everyone. All right, enjoy the rest of your day and look out for the ebook over email.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Matt. Bye.